Oh, did I lose? Whew. All right, sorry, something happened there. Anyway, sorry, but it's accountability, and I was taught as a kid, like, and good principles I was taught. There was some wild stuff as well, but there was good principles that I was taught. And one of the things that kind of stuck is you are what you do, right? Like, if you say good things and only do bad things, then what are you, right? Like, you can say all the right things just because you say you're a good person or you say good things. And so there's the Utah Senate Senate leader, Adams. Yeah. And, you know, I just did just a clip of it. And one of the things I said, and I was trying to keep it pretty concise, but my general concern with him is what he says and what his actions are don't match. So, for example, he's a developer, and I live currently where I'm staying is near Clinton City, and I know Clinton City had an uproar, and you can go read the meeting notes. So, like, Clinton City has some laws, and they have some density requirements that they have in their city, and they just approved some townhomes, and then there was a development that was going to go in on this 39 acres of farmland. And on that 39 acres of farmland, they had basically said, like, we want mixed use housing. Like, we want single family homes for families, right? We don't want townhomes. We don't want an HOA. We want just, and they just wanted mixed use. And the guys, but somehow, magically, the city council votes against that to override it, even though a huge amount of the citizens came out and were like, "Hey, no, we want this." And it wasn't that they didn't want a development and they didn't want more homes. They were just like, we just don't want all townhomes. We want, like, some regular single family homes that are smaller, and we want, like, some of them can be townhomes. And somehow he forced it through. And I just think that's fascinating. And now this plays out in Box Elder County. Somehow he's involved again through the MITA board. And the county commissioners clearly here, and, Box Elder County, like, I don't live in Box Elder County. I lived in Cache County, and I'm in Davis County right now. But I know lots of people from Box Elder County. I'm watching the video, and I recognize people in the video sitting in the audience. Like, that's just me. It's not necessarily a super densely populated county. Also, there's a lot of, like, legacies that have been there. I think families realize that so and so sold them out, and, like, Hadfield and McCoy type stuff. Like, people are gonna be pissed. It is still very much small town America. But anyway, so the same thing happens in Box Elder County. Clearly, one of the commissioners was at least concerned, and a bunch of the citizens are concerned. And then suddenly it's like, boom, it's done. And it's like, hang on, how is this happening? And then, like, go into some of the other things he's been involved with. So there was a whole COVID, the state of Utah ended up purchasing at a massively inflated price, I think a bunch of ivermectin or something. But it was it was like his buddy's pharmacy, allegedly. I mean, it seems like the state did purchase it and that he put his thumb on the weights and that it went to that pharmacy. That's problematic, right? That's not free and fair market. That's you putting your thumb on the scale for your boy. And so I'm like, it seems like you're pretty undemocratic and you're just like the good old boys. You pretend like you care about democracy, but what you want to do is hook up all your homies. And you'll do deals in back rooms constantly. The worst of which is he also was trying to force through a change to the laws that would lessen the penalty of a sex offender for a girl who's under 30, or I won't say just girl, if for a minor who's under 13, if you're enrolled in high school. So if you're 18 and in high school, it lessens the penalty if she's under. And I'm like, that's too big of an age gap, my guy. That's a massive age gap. That's a problem, right? Like, oh, well, like, we have this thing about like, oh, well, one moment of indiscretion and it ruins a lot. Yeah, it does. One moment of indiscretion often ruins lives. And just because a kid comes from privilege or connection doesn't mean they should merit more opportunity, because you're not protecting the person who is on the receiving end. And this isn't just like somebody gets sexually assaulted and things like that. It also has to do with like drunk driving or fighting, or like somebody's life can be dramatically and permanently changed from one moment of indiscretion. It happens all the time. And it doesn't mean, like, in some things, sure, maybe you are redeemable, but there are certain things that maybe we should just say, yeah, guess what? You get to live with that mistake for the rest of your life. You get to try to succeed with that. I don't see that as a bad thing. Like, I'm like, well, forgive. Yeah, it's there's a level of forgiveness individually, and if you're a believer in God, then God's gonna forgive. But sometimes maybe we should just be sending people to Him to make sure they get forgiven, like, because we keep seeming to give some monsters multiple chances, and they don't ever succeed. So that was a really, and his step grandson was potentially involved, but they're like, oh, but it wouldn't change the outcome. But it seems like there's some weird things with some judges in Utah, and it also seems like maybe the fact that law was going through was going to open a pathway for whatever argumentation and plea deal was done, right? But he's like, oh, it doesn't benefit him, but maybe it did, because everything with this guy seems to be backroom handshake deals. They're going to happen after the fact, right? Like, he got a whole bunch of donations after this project gets approved in Box Elder. He gets $135,000 to his PAC from companies that are going to benefit. And we've legalized this nonsense. It doesn't make it right, and it doesn't mean it make it ethical. It's like slavery was also legal at one point. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it ethical. It doesn't make it good. It's like I just, it's infuriating sometimes that's how like myopic we get, and like, well, it's what the law says. Yeah, maybe the law is wrong. We've had some really terrible laws in the past. Hey, dueling is illegal now. Maybe it shouldn't be. What if you could challenge somebody to a duel? I think a lot less politicians would run their mouth. Also, side note, delicious. Delicious. Any hoodlums. So he's got a bunch of controversies around him. And then probably, honestly, one of the most heinous. So Utah really tried to do a good job of doing its redistricting map. They did a whole independent like council. they created a map. The map got reviewed. It got checked for fairness and like what it would actually do. And everybody was like, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good way to do it. And then him and the other people at the Utah Senate like, nah. And then they redrew a map that is clearly trying to screw people out. And then they just passed that. And it's like, one, if you're about like not being wasteful in the voice of the people, why did you just waste the voice of the people, right? It seems like every time push comes to shove, you throw away the wants of the people, like actually lots of the people, to do what you want and what benefits your buddies to maintain the status quo. And so it feels more like you're not a real person. You're not a good person. Because you will do anything and everything to screw people up. Like, it appears that he's LDS because he put some stuff on his page. And I'm like, how on earth do you justify being honest with your fellow men? I don't know how somebody can take his answer with a straight face. I'm like, really? I mean, I guess, like, but really? Because you seem to be getting money from all sorts of interesting places. And you seem to have no problem screwing over regular Utahns and putting their money to whatever you want. And it seems like a bunch of your companies win all sorts of MITA contracts, or your buddies win all sorts of MITA contracts. But somehow no ethics investigate, no looking into it. Okay. And I benefit from, I mean, I'm just one dude shouting into the internet. But I find this to be despicable behavior. And I'm like, we should stop tolerating these types of politicians. They're the problem. They're the reason that we have pedophiles, because they will do all sorts of terrible backdoor deals to make bad things happen that benefit them. But once again, and I think this is lost, I'm not necessarily saying they shouldn't build that data center. I'm saying you need to tell us how you're going to benefit the people of Utah, because a tax break isn't fair to the people of Box Elder County who are going to pay for this, right? Okay, here's an interesting one. So to build, I'm sure we can find this. If you want to go find how many trucks it's taking to build some of these big like Facebook and Google data centers, it'd be fascinating to find out. And this one's going to be even bigger. So I'm going to guess you're going to have to lay miles and miles and miles of road, and you have to repair miles and miles of road, because this is going to probably be a 5-10 year project, power plant, everything going on. And if anybody else goes out there, so you're talking about shifting all the assets in the county out that direction. So like my road breaks down, is my road going to get fixed, or is it going to go to fix that data center? But the data center's not even paying taxes to offset the construction of those roads because they got a tax break. So it's the regular people of Box Elder County that are going to be paying for those roads. Accuse me of like, you don't even know how this works. I'm like, yeah, I'm actually quite aware, and I have problems with that because you're sucking a ton of resources that you're not paying for. It's corporate socialism. It's rugged free market for everybody else, but it's corporate socialism for big businesses. And I think that's wrong. If truly this monopoly power and all this is going to deliver so much better, and they've got so much money, make them build their own stuff. Make them pay their employees. Stop letting companies replace people with AI. People should only be enhanced by AI, because when you create mass unemployment, you're going to create a massive problem, which I have some concerns about. So all this redistricting things, and some of the things the Supreme Court has struck down, right? So like the Voting Rights Act they just did. The fact that the Supreme Court overturned like they had been deemed, are all sorts of states that have had those laws on the book that it's illegal for races to mix, and they just overturned it. Like, man, we don't care. we're going to go after this one thing. We don't care. It seemed really bad behavior. Now, conspiracy theorist I am, but I think things rhyme over history, and you have to keep one ear to the ground and one ear to God. And one of the things that I keep thinking about is there seems to be a very vocal, I mean, they're not even a majority. I mean, yes, they are technically a majority. They're not. Because if you count Latinos as white, then whites are still a majority. And if you don't, then they aren't. And that's an interesting conversation. But the way they're starting to try to restrict voting rights and go after some things that came out of the 1960s is a little concerning. And the way they're doing some redistricting, it appears they're trying to keep white majority and like groups representing all sorts of groups and wash out the voices. And I'm deeply alarmed by this because I'm going to put some things together. And I understand that like X so and so who's having this fight may not be directly behind all of this. But I'm trying to be real like thoughtful in how I say this and to say it correctly without trying to be overly alarmist. Billionaire and special interest people have really bad habits of having a grand scheme that they're willing to push on constantly for their own benefit and to try to make the world in the way that they want. And this is one of the problems that we let unlimited money flow in our politics. And so they have this megaphone that they are just shouting in, that they just load money in and they just shout, and then they enrich themselves further and shout more. But the thing that I look at, I'm like, hey, this is concerning. So you're starting to wash out some of the minority voices. And we've increasingly created this kind of police state. And we're kind of headed in a bit of a fascist direction. With a fake strongman as a leader. And I understand that can oscillate. But it's concerning. And it may not have been the intent of people in Congress, and they're just trying to win their stupid little fights. And I don't know that they've participated in the grand scheme. Some of the ones that have been around for a long time, they clearly they're up to something, and they have a grand project that they've been around for a long time trying to implement. Like Turtle Man from Kentucky, who used to be the Senate majority. Why am I blanking on his name? I can see his face. Anyway, his like sole goal was to pack the Supreme Court the entire time that he was in the Senate. That was like his singular goal that he was constantly working on. And it's a problem because they did. But you've got Palantir saying they think they should bring the draft back. And that concerns me a lot. Because they just raised the age of being able to enlist. But I don't know that I trust Palantir. Because what if they are in charge of the draft and they're like, yeah, we're just going to select at random. And like at random is just like a whole bunch of people that have been voicing opposition, right? But if you suppress out the vote and it's like, well, it's not my people, it's the different looking ones, it becomes a lot easier at first. And then if those voices get sent into the meat grinder and don't ever make it back, I mean, that kind of happened in Vietnam. Like when you find out like the number of like minorities that ended up fighting, and especially the number of minorities that sat on the front lines the entire time. Like I'm not saying that there were not white kids that were fighting, and there very much were, but if you look at the data, I mean, it's pretty atrocious, the casualty rate between minorities and whites in Vietnam. I mean, and I think it's to such an extent that like so many of them died that like we don't even know anymore. And I worry. And then at some point when the draft goes poorly, then they offer citizenship to a bunch of these illegals who are here, and they're going to gather up at these ICE facilities all over. But man, I mean, there's just some scary trends, right? A thuggish national police organization who's willing to do whatever the president says by any means necessary feels problematic. And it seems like they're willing to ignore a lot of the Constitution to just do their thing. And I hear it from law enforcement all the time. I do support for a police department. And when they're frustrated, they have a problem with a locked door. And I'm like, yeah, but that's the job. The locked door is important, and doing it the right way is important. Yeah, it takes more time. Yeah, it's harder. But it should be. You shouldn't just get a troll through everybody's data. And it's hard. It should be. It shouldn't be an easy job. Also, I think they should get paid way more. We should have some more of them, and they get more time off, so that they have less like anger type issues. So like, but like, let's get the cream of the crop in there. Anyway, the Utah Senate president, I feel like he's a bad guy. And nobody wants to feel like they're the bad guy. At some point in his mind, he's probably convinced himself that he's doing the right thing as he lays his head on a pillowcase full of cash, figuratively. Right? He sleeps well at night because he feels like he did right for his. And if he is LDS, which potentially, I'm not saying he's not. I interacted with a lot of his type as a kid. And there was a subset of people within the LDS faith. Super racist. Super racist. And they kind of live, they're very much Pharisees. And if you're not a Christian who's familiar with what Pharisees were very much like, I make it look like I'm doing the right thing, ergo I am. Like, as long as they didn't get caught, like, they were the kind that would, like, arguing with Jesus about everything, and it was like, the Pharisees would be out, and they'd be like, oh, well, she was caught in adultery. How'd you catch her in adultery? Well, one of them was doing the adultery. They just brought her in, right? So it becomes this thing of like, as long as you don't catch me or you don't know me, right? Like, I'm fine. So as long as it appears like I'm doing the right thing. And a lot of people live that way because it's easier. And a lot of people have frustrations. But I feel like Pharisees are the worst. I think that's even from the Bible, that they are the worst because they very much are they say the right things, but they do the wrong things, right? And they're motivated by the wrong things. And it's all about the appearance of what they do and not the actual effect or what they're doing. As long as it's like all these people, all these rich people who have charities. I have a charity for this. I have a charity to fight human trafficking, which sounds great. But then you find out that they're drawing a massive salary from it and they're doing all these other things with it. And like, well, they only have to spend X amount on it. And it's actually a way for them to shelter their wealth. And you're like, well, now I just feel scummy about it because now donating to that charity is more about just making you forever rich so you can hide your money from the government. And it has nothing to do with actually helping these people. In fact, it's all marketing to make people feel good about what they're doing without ever looking at what the actual effect is. Maybe tithing, maybe church donations and charitable donations shouldn't be tax deductible. Then you really find out what people are willing to give. Anyway, random thoughts this morning. I'll probably do some short videos kind of touching on some of these topics later. Hopefully. Anyway. Ooh, we might have some disclosure sometime this week, maybe next week. Fascinating. We'll see. Friday would be a good day for it. Go into the weekend with something to distract us outside of the Iran war. Still illegal. Man, I think China's going to go after Taiwan, and that's where I think this draft is going to come from. I think they're just going to be like, we need bodies, and it's going to be old school, and there's going to be troops that don't have top cover, and it's going to get bad. And I think that a group of people are okay with that. So when I get dragged out, you'll know why. Have a good day.